After finishing my Instagram post, I let out a deep sigh. On the screen was a picture of our family of 3 smiling in front of our home in Mission Ridge. The photo showed my husband James lifting our daughter Amy high in the air, with the Spanish colonial revival-style mansion's white walls bathed in sunset light as the backdrop. I stood beside them, watching their interaction with a gentle smile. The perfect shot. The likes had already surpassed 300. Family time, perfect family, happy family. As I added these hashtags, I felt conflicted. Linda, Amy's crying again, my husband's irritated voice echoed from upstairs. I hastily put down my smartphone and rushed up the stairs. The hallway leading to the master bedroom was filled with the organic aroma we'd bought from Whole Foods Market. Amy was crying on the bed, clutching tightly to her white rabbit stuffed animal, Bunny. Her night crying had increased lately. Just recently, her teacher at the Montessori preschool had reported that something seemed off about her behavior. "What's wrong, princess?" I embraced Amy gently while asking. "Another bad dream?" "Yes." Her small head nodded against my chest. "I have work to do," my husband called from outside the door. James, holding his Tesla Model Y keys, was already dressed for work. His usual navy suit exuded the authority of a senior manager at the local branch office on State Street. An annual income of $120,000. For our family living in Santa Barbara's upscale neighborhood, it was essential income. I myself earn $80,000 as an event planner at the Ritz-Carlton Baccara. Even so, the rent for this house is $4,000 per month. Considering living expenses, both of us working was a natural choice. 5 years ago, when we first met at a corporate party at the hotel, I was drawn to James's sincere personality and dedicated approach to his career. After dating for a year, we got married. Our honeymoon memories in Hawaii still remain on Instagram with the hashtag #PerfectHoneymoon. Then 2 years later, Amy descended into our lives. A perfect life. At least, that's how it should appear on social media. "Well, I'm off," James's voice came from the entrance. Recently, he'd been coming home later and later. He explained it was because work had increased at their branch office of the Silicon Valley tech company, but feeling Amy's small body temperature against me, I became lost in thought. Before marriage, I was a career woman through and through. Even now I continue working, but it's clearly different from before. Housework and childcare have basically become my responsibility. On holidays, we spend time at nearby Butterfly Beach and go shopping at the mall. On Sundays, we attend service at Trinity Episcopal Church. On the surface, it's the very picture of an ideal young family's daily life. Perhaps my over 2,000 Instagram followers are proof of that. But lately, I've been feeling increasingly uneasy. My husband comes home later, and with Amy's night crying, conversation between us as a couple has decreased. Above all, I'm worried about Amy's condition. My usually bright and energetic daughter seems to be carrying some anxiety. "Hey, Amy," I gently stroked her head. "What are you going to play at preschool today?" Amy still wouldn't let go of her rabbit stuffed animal. "I don't want to go." Those words filled me with guilt as a mother. Balancing work and childcare. While pursuing ideals, was I losing sight of what's most important? Outside the window, the bells of Mission Santa Barbara broke the morning silence. The white-walled church watches over this city daily as its landmark. Its sound seemed to awaken some anxiety lurking deep in my heart. My smartphone rang. I thought it was a message from James, but it wasn't. It was from the preschool. Good morning. As we mentioned yesterday, we're concerned about Amy's condition. Were you able to take her temperature this morning? The message was from 10 minutes ago. James should handle it. Though I tried to convince myself of this, I felt unsettled somehow. An intuitive anxiety stirred in my heart. But I absolutely couldn't miss this project. The client had specifically requested my portfolio. The sky was gradually brightening. In the distance, I could see the Los Angeles-bound flight moving from the parking area to the runway. In the morning mist, the airplane's silhouette became increasingly clear. While heading to the check-in counter, I checked my phone again. I couldn't help worrying about Amy. But there were no messages from James. He'll be fine, I told myself. In the 5 years since our marriage, he'd never made any major mistakes with childcare. Rather, on social media, he was praised as the best dad, an exemplary father. Still, I was worried. His expression before heading to the bathroom this morning seemed somehow different from usual. Instead of his usual warm smile, he seemed irritated about something. Maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe it was because it was so early in the morning. On my way to the boarding gate, I stopped at the airport Starbucks. As usual, I ordered organic green tea. On the shelf beside the register were the pastries that Amy loves. I decided to buy some on my way back. Boarding will begin in 15 minutes, the announcement echoed through the terminal. As I hurried along, I let out a deep sigh. At that time, I had no way of knowing that this Los Angeles business trip would drastically change our family's destiny. The Santa Barbara cityscape passed slowly by the taxi window. At 7 p.m., the bells of Mission Santa Barbara were ringing in the distance. The meeting had gone well. The $2 million wedding plan had been approved, and I'd gained the client's trust. The drive home should have been filled with joy. And yet, somehow I felt unsettled. Entering the upscale Mission Ridge neighborhood, the usual peaceful streetscape spread before me. Well-maintained front yards, neatly lined street trees. But as we approached our house, my sense of unease grew stronger. "This is fine here," I said. Getting out of the taxi, I looked up at the white-walled house. All the windows were dark. Even the porch light was off. "Amy? James?" I turned the key and opened the front door. No response. While taking off my shoes, I checked my smartphone. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. "Is anyone here?" Entering the living room, there was a strange atmosphere. Despite the afternoon sunlight still lingering inside, an odd darkness seemed to dominate. The usual sound of the TV, Amy's laughter, nothing could be heard. "James? Amy?" My voice was slightly trembling. Just as I was about to head upstairs, my eyes caught the basement door. A faint light was leaking from underneath. "What's this?" A red liquid was slowly seeping out from under the door. Like an ominous line drawn by someone. My heart started racing. Feeling my hands shake, I slowly approached the door. "Amy." No answer. My hand touched the doorknob. Cold. Unnaturally cold to the touch. Slowly, I opened the door. The emergency light illuminating the stairs cast a thin light on the basement's darkness. I gasped. There were multiple scratch marks on the wall. marks of small hands desperately scratching the wall. As if someone had desperately sought help. Amy. Where are you? My voice cracked. Down one step, then another. My feet were unsteady. Broken red wine bottles scattered on the floor. Next to them, Amy's precious bunny lay tragically discarded. The white rabbit stuffed animal was stained with red wine. No, this can't be. I collapsed to my knees. On the cold floor, red wine mixed with blood. Small bloodstains. Had they flowed from Amy's fingers? The scratch marks continued along the wall. From the dark stairs to the depths of the basement, traces of desperation were etched. Amy. My scream echoed in the sealed space. Just then, my smartphone rang. An unknown number displayed on the screen. In my distressed state, I instinctively pressed the answer button. Hello, Linda, a woman's voice. An unfamiliar yet calm voice. I'm Carol Martin. I'm calling about Amy. She's sleeping at my house right now. At those words, I couldn't stand up. Relief and confusion washed over me simultaneously. Is Amy safe? Yes. She had some minor injuries to her fingers, but they've already been treated. She's safe now. But, why? Who are you? Words failed me. My mind went blank. I'll explain everything later. For now, please be assured. Carol's voice had a strange persuasiveness. Like a longtime friend. Could you come to my house? For Amy's sake. I nodded. Even though she couldn't see me through the phone. Looking up at the stairs again, the scratch marks looked increasingly vivid in the darkness. What exactly happened in this basement? Where was my husband? And who was this woman named Carol? The wine shards creaked faintly under my shoes. Carol's house was in a quiet residential area about 15 minutes by car from Mission Ridge. A modern single-family home with white as its base color. Carefully tended lavender was planted at the entrance, its fragrance wafting on the evening breeze. The interior was simple yet sophisticated, with abstract paintings adorning the walls. The scent of herb tea drifted from the kitchen, creating a somehow calming space. Just inside the entrance, I spotted my child's shoes. The small pink sneakers she always wore to preschool. Next to them were disposable slippers that must have been used at the hospital. On the living room coffee table, a first aid kit remained placed out. The faint smell of disinfectant lingered in the air. Amy is sleeping in the guest room upstairs. Carol Martin was a beautiful woman who conveyed a certain fragility within her dignified bearing. Even in the way she offered warm herb tea, there was gentleness. We have a lot to talk about, don't we? As she sat down on the living room sofa, Carol quietly began. Through the large window, the night view of Santa Barbara spread out. I've been involved with James for 3 months. My hands shook at those words. A truth I had suspected was now confronting me as reality. As a HR director for a medical equipment manufacturer, we had business dealings with his company. Carol continued, choosing her words carefully. At first it was purely business. But gradually. I nodded silently. I had no feeling of wanting to blame her now. I just wanted to know about Amy. Today, I had an appointment to meet James at the hotel at 3:30 p.m. But his behavior was clearly strange. Irritated, unsettled. And Carol let out a deep sigh. He said he had locked that nuisance of a daughter in the basement. My heart leaped violently. At first I thought it was a joke. But his eyes were serious. He said, she wouldn't stop crying, so I shut her up. Carol's voice trembled. Actually, 3 weeks ago, I saw your photo on his phone and kept your emergency contact information. I felt guilty about the affair, in case something happened. Outside the window, street lights flickered. I went straight to his house. I knew there was a spare key hidden under the planter by the entrance. He had mentioned it before. And Amy. The basement door was open. I could hear small cries. When I went in, Amy was trembling in a dark corner. Tears welled up in my eyes. Just imagining it made my chest tighten. Red wine bottles were scattered on the floor. Blood from Amy's fingers. It seemed she hurt herself while desperately trying to open the door. Bunny. The stuffed animal. Amy was holding it tightly. But it got stained with wine. Carol stood up and brought a new stuffed animal from the kitchen. A white rabbit. Just like Bunny. I bought it at a shop on the way. As a replacement for the original stuffed animal. Her words caught in her throat. This time, tears fell from Carol's eyes. Why? I asked in a trembling voice. A voice squeezed from my throat. Why would he do something like this? Everything went dark before my eyes. The warmth from when I kissed Amy's forehead this morning came back to me. The casual daily life when I left the note saying, "Be a good girl." And just a few hours later, my beloved daughter was trembling in fear in a dark basement. During that time, I was excited about a $2 million wedding meeting. While I was looking at my smartphone on the train, Amy might have been desperately calling for help. Feelings of self-reproach washed over me. As a mother, I should have noticed more. The unease in the morning, my husband's unnatural behavior, the message from the preschool, I had missed all the signs. Desperate to balance work and childcare, I failed to notice that what was most important was in crisis. James picked up Amy from preschool at 2 p.m., Carol began slowly, as if organizing the timeline. Originally, he was supposed to use extended care. But after receiving a call from the teacher worried about her condition, he had to pick her up. That's when he. Carol continued, choosing her words carefully. Amy's presence became an obstacle to keeping his 3:30 appointment with me. He considered leaving her with an acquaintance, but no one would take in a sick child. And so he chose to lock his daughter in the basement for his own desires. Dark emotions resonated. I couldn't have imagined at the time that he would make such a cruel choice. The man who always proclaimed himself best dad, and played the role of the perfect father. As I listened to the story, everything connected. His unnatural behavior in the morning. The too early wake-up. The message from the preschool. He took Amy to the basement and shouted, "Be quiet." She cried out in the dark basement. Irritated by her voice, he took the red wine bottle at hand and... Carol's voice broke off. The police? Not yet. We prioritized treating Amy. Carol pulled out a file containing medical records. She was examined at the local emergency clinic. Fortunately, there were no major injuries, but her right index and middle fingers had lacerations requiring 4 stitches. She also received treatment for mild dehydration and psychological shock. Her words trailed off. The documents included photos of Amy's injuries and medical reports, all meticulously organized. The kind of thoroughness you'd expect from an HR director. "I've saved the security camera footage," Carol continued. "Everything should be recorded on the Ring doorbell camera. The footage from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. From when James brought Amy home, to the basement, until I rescued her." The clock showed 9 p.m. Outside the window, the full moon shone quietly. "Linda," Carol looked at me with a sincere expression. "I bear responsibility too. I know it's unforgivable. But for Amy's sake, what we can do from now on." At that moment, a small sound came from upstairs. Someone moving. Then, the sound of small footsteps coming down the stairs. My heart raced. The guest room door opening. A faint creak from the hallway. In that space prepared as Amy's room, a night light that Carol must have hurriedly bought cast a gentle glow. On the bed, several cushions were arranged so she could feel secure in an unfamiliar place. "Mama." Amy's voice. Like being pulled back to reality. I stood up and ran up the stairs. There was my beloved daughter, clutching the new bunny. Small bandages were wrapped around her fingers. "Mama." I held her tight, so tight. Warm. A real presence. Alive. Outside the window, the bells of Mission Santa Barbara rang in the distance. As the night deepened, Amy woke again from a nightmare. This was one of the symptoms the psychological counselor had predicted. "Mama." She calls in a small voice. "It's okay," I rushed to her immediately. "There's no basement here." "Really, Daddy won't come?" "No," I nod. "And Aunt Carol is nearby too, right? So you're safe." The reunion with James in court was surprisingly anticlimactic. My former husband had become thin, like a different person. "Amy, Daddy is." I cut him off. "That's enough." The verdict was as expected. I was granted full custody, and James was issued a restraining order. 4 years in prison. Carol's testimony played a decisive role. The morning at Santa Barbara coast always begins with the sea breeze. "Amy, are you ready?" I call from the living room. "Just a minute." A cheerful voice echoes from our corner unit on the 6th floor. Thanks to therapy, Amy was gradually regaining her natural brightness. At her new preschool, she started making friends actively. Bunny is still her best friend, but she's gained more playmates too. "It's picnic day today, right?" Carol appears with shopping bags. True to her word, she moved into the neighborhood. Saturday picnics at Butterfly Beach had become our new tradition. Work at the Ritz-Carlton Baccara is going well. That $2 million wedding was a huge success, and I got my promotion. But now, I'm careful about maintaining a balance between work and family. My Instagram followers have decreased dramatically. I no longer post perfect family photos. Instead, I save Amy's smiles and our everyday moments just for ourselves. "Mama, look." Amy comes to show off her new swimsuit. It matches Bunny's color. Indeed, the white swimsuit matched the color of the new Bunny. The old Bunny remains in police custody as evidence, along with the memories of that day. Amy's recovery is progressing well. We always receive positive evaluations during our regular sessions with the psychological counselor. However, complete recovery will still take time. Sometimes, Amy still dreams about the basement. But whenever she wakes up, either I or Carol is always by her side. The fear of darkness is gradually fading. The house in Mission Ridge has already been sold. I heard a new family lives there now. The basement has been renovated into a wine cellar. I'm ready. Amy comes running with her beach bag. Aunt Carol, did you make sandwiches? Of course, Carol smiles. Peanut butter and jelly, your favorite. This modest happiness is what matters most to us now. A life where we don't need to pretend to be perfect. Mama, Amy suddenly asks. We're happy now, aren't we? Yes, I answer without hesitation. Very happy. Outside the window, the waves of the Pacific Ocean gently lap at the shore. The bells of Mission Santa Barbara are now far away. But our new life continues with steady steps forward. We no longer need perfect family photos. Just genuine smiles. Sometimes tears. And above all, a true bond of caring for each other. That was the path we chose. That night, after putting Amy to bed in Carol's guest room, we called the police. Santa Barbara police officers in uniform arrived within 30 minutes. First and foremost, we're glad your child is safe, the female officer quietly states. Her name tag reads Sarah Murphy. May we see the security camera footage? We play the Ring camera footage that Carol had saved. At 2 p.m., James returns home carrying a sick-looking Amy. His expression already lacks its usual gentleness. Stay in the basement and be quiet. The security camera captured even his fierce expression at that moment. Next comes footage of him heading to the basement with a wine bottle. And hours later, the scene of Carol rescuing Amy. This is clearly child abuse, Officer Murphy determines immediately. An arrest warrant will be issued right away. Several hours later, James was arrested at his workplace. In the Santa Barbara police station interrogation room, his expression had completely changed. Why? He pounds the table. Why were you at my house? He glares at Carol. I recommend you exercise your right to remain silent, the interrogator calmly states. I have rights. It's my house. Amy is my daughter. At his voice, I shudder in the next room. It's unbelievable that this is the same voice as my once gentle husband. They'll introduce us to a trauma care specialist, Carol explains while spreading out documents. Her HR director network proves valuable once again. The next morning, Amy plays in the pediatric clinic's playroom. She won't let go of the new bunny. Mama, watch. Amy calls out while stacking blocks. Her voice is quieter than before. Still, her smile is gradually returning. That's wonderful, I smile back. What kind of castle are you making? It's not a castle. It's our new home. At those words, Carol and I exchange glances. In the examination room, the child psychologist explains carefully. Just like treating physical wounds, healing the heart takes time. However, Amy shows strong signs of recovery. We can never return to the house in Mission Ridge. Every time we see the basement door, the horror of that day would come back. The scratch marks must still remain on the wall. Look at this, Carol holds out her smartphone. A new apartment on Santa Barbara coast. You can see the ocean. The rent is reasonable too. But I'll be your guarantor. And She hesitates slightly. If you don't mind, I'm thinking of living nearby. I look up in surprise. I know I can never fully make amends. But I want to be there for you and Amy from now on. Outside the window, Amy plays on the playground equipment, carefully holding her new bunny. A few days later, we meet with our legal counsel at the entrance of Trinity Episcopal Church. After Sunday service, we discuss divorce and custody procedures in a quiet room of the church. We have sufficient evidence, the lawyer declares. The security camera footage, medical records, Carol's testimony. You'll almost certainly get custody. Amy was playing in the church garden. Watched over by Carol, she chases butterflies like a child who knows nothing of the basement's horror. Mama. Suddenly, Amy runs up to me. There's no more basement. My chest tightens. That's right, I hold her tight. You'll never have to go into dark places again. Promise. Her small finger seeks a pinky promise. I promise. That weekend, we completed our move to the new home on Santa Barbara coast. A corner unit on the 6th floor with refreshing sea breezes. From the living room, you can see the sunset sinking into the Pacific Ocean. Do you like it? Carol asks Amy. Yes. A bouncy voice we haven't heard in a while. Bunny's happy too. The house in Mission Ridge now seems like a distant past. I've learned the meaning behind seemingly perfect family photos.